But I think the other stream should be up and running. So I think we can go ahead and get started, and then we'll go over the market and get into our recap of the week. Okay. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for November 15th, 2019. Qs, new highs, SPY, new highs. All right, up 0.5%. Qs up a little bit shy of 0.5%, 0.42. We got about 18 minutes left here until the close. Bullishness continues. I think every day we just continued with this bullish bias for the last month. And I wish I could tell you there was something else interesting going on here or something different. But, we talked about how this base was setting up for potential for the next move higher. And so, a lot of the days, the intraday range has been pretty small, just been grinding up higher. So, I think it's kind of a good thing, that the market has not been a big factor in a lot of these plays. And so, I don't really mind it, that the intraday ranges are small, that we've got this bullish bias. What I'm focused on are things that are likely to be on their own page, independent of the market, but they're not going to be, completely uninfluenced by whatever the broader indexes are doing, what other stocks are doing. So, I don't think that it's necessarily 100% independent, but, this kind of price action helps us to find relative strength, relative weakness, movers a little bit easier. So, I think if you're looking for market volatility, it can be a little bit frustrating if that's what you're looking for. But I think, as long as we have good gaps, we have, earnings names to trade, I think we should do just fine. But long-term and short-term bias both remain bullish. Okay, going into Monday, going into next week. All right, so let's get into some of this week's trades. Actually, starting off with Monday, we played the NKTR. I called this NKTR as it was gapping up here. Okay, so that's a pro gap up, as we've gone over. If you've taken the turnaround trader formula to know if it's a pro gap, I'm looking to play it long. Okay, so I played it on this little bit of a pullback right here was our entry, and then it got up, couldn't break through the highs. Stop was here. I wanted to see new highs, and I wanted to see this void come into play, okay, which is on the daily chart here. Okay, so strategy is pro gap. I'm considering this a pro gap, breaking some resistance, and I was looking for much bigger targets. Okay, and so it didn't get to our target. We did trail this out, okay, for a partial loss. All right, so it did immediately get going, which was nice. We got in the play. We saw a profitable play right away. I wanted to see more. I wanted to be part of a bigger play. Did not meet my expectations, so I think we killed it a little bit below break even. I think it was a partial loss on that one on the NKTR. So that was just Monday. Monday, I didn't see a lot, okay, going on there. All right, on to Tuesday. All right, moving on. We had this Tyson, which was initially a gap down in the pre-market and then flipped, okay, and became a pro gap up. So as a gap up, a pro gap up, I'm looking to play it long, okay, on the Tyson. All right, TSN, similar entry to the NKTR, in that we got this pullback on the 2-minute and played it as it broke above in this green bar here. Was only looking for the initial move. Ended up going all day, actually. So you can see, and actually gave another breakout in the afternoon. So much like the NKTR, right? I'm looking at first, we got a pro gap up, gapped up above resistance, and I'm looking to play it higher. And then when do I get in it is when it gave me the retracement. Okay, so initially went up. I wasn't part of this first move up, then gave me a pullback. So a series of lower highs into this area where I had these bottoming tails, and then entry over, right, the previous lower high. So it was over 85.40. I think I got filled like closer to 85.50, But yeah, it was over that bar there and then got filled and then went right to the target and then much further even. Okay, so that was the Tyson. Okay, shortly after that, we played the DXC. As you can see, bullish market. Not surprising. We got a lot more long entries, although there is some a short play in here too. We did get more, I think, good long entry patterns, so I ended up playing a lot more things long. DXC, pro gap up. So again, the same kind of reasoning that I played the NKTR long. DXC, we got the gap up, so I played this. However, the entry, instead of a pullback, was played as a breakout. So it was basing, and then once it broke out of the base, came back in and retested. So there was a bit of time there. It didn't look like it was going to work. I was on the mic at the time, and I said, oh, it's probably going to take out the bottom of the base. If it wants to take out the bottom of the base, that's fine. It'll be a losing play, but I like this gap, and I like being in it. Or I want to be in it until it gets to target, right? And it eventually did get to target, and then actually gave another base breakout, right, higher. I think breakouts are probably the most common trading entry pattern, trading pattern, right? You're just looking at a series of sideways bars, a series of equal highs, equal lows, and then once it clears that range, right, higher. So pro gap and a breakout was the play on the DXC. Okay, and then the next morning, I said the SPB is the #1 gap. That's what I'm going to be focused on at the open. And as you guys, if you were with me at the open, I was. And I said there is a 1-minute pattern on the SPB. You can play it as a high-low, but I think it's a little bit too aggressive for me. And so I'm going to let it go. And it wasn't easy, especially it wasn't easy to watch it go without me. But there it is, favorite gap up, right? And I go over in the turnaround trader formula, this kind of entry, right, where you're just using the high and low, the first minute bar, is a breakout on a smaller time frame. A high-low is just a variation of a breakout, right? And should only be used for your absolute favorite #1, maybe #1 and #2, right, top gaps of the morning. I also go over in the program how to decide if it's the best gap up, how to rate and rank them. So, we decided this was I decided this was the #1 gap up, and it did give me this very aggressive entry, and I decided to pass. And, it wasn't easy to watch, but I think just a little bit too much, too spready at the time. And boy, would that have worked, right? Would have been really, really nice. Okay, but I said I'm passing on it. I have reason to pass on it. Sometimes it's going to happen, And after that, we moved off of the SPB and went after the DDOG instead. Okay, so the DDOG set up a base right here. So very similar, right? Again, like the DXC, right? The DXC, you saw that base up there at the highs and then the breakout. Right, you can see a lot of equal highs, equal lows, consolidation, breakouts. Very, very common pattern, right? We played the breakout here. Okay, breakout. I was only looking for 2 Rs, and rarely does this happen. That I think target ended up being just like 10 cents from the high of the day. So I don't usually, that isn't usually the case. I think on this case, because this was going to new all-time highs, I didn't really have any other kind of reference point on the chart as it was kind of breaking above this area. So ended up being, I think, 42.80, and then the high ended up being 92. So 12 cents off the highs. I mean, that's just kind of lucky. And sometimes it's good to be a little lucky, right? But I think the idea was sound, right? Again, on the DDOG, pro gap up, clearing resistance, okay, and then I played it as a high of the day base breakout, okay, much like same kind of concept as the DXC, okay. All right, so then that was the DDOG, and then the next morning, Cisco, I believe, was the favorite for the gap downs. I liked that it was a pro gap down, gapping down, clearing support, gapping down against a recent uptrend, right? So that was a favorite short. We played it as a 1-minute breakdown here. Okay, so you kind of flip the other pattern that you saw on the DXC, on the DDOG, you flip that on its head, right? And now we're basing at the lows on something that gapped down. Can't get off the lows. We played it as it broke to new lows. Okay, underneath the lows. I just used the top of this these couple bars here. So there's kind of 3 bars here. That's 45.49, 45.48, and then 45.49 as the stop. So I thought that was as tight as we could, and I wanted to use a tight stop because I know the Cisco isn't going to move that much probably. So I want to use a tight stop because I was sure about the direction, as sure as you can be. I mean, you never know for sure, 100%, right? But pretty strong conviction this is going lower. Not in Cisco, since it doesn't typically move that much. I wanted to use a tight stop. It ended up being about a 25-cent stop. Okay, so we're looking for a couple R's there. We got target 1 and then target 2 pretty nicely. It's just we couldn't get to follow through all day. Eventually, kind of bottomed and just went sideways. So, but still a nice play on the CSCO. That was the focus at the open. Pro gap down. So pro gap down. We look for bearish entries. We found a breakdown. So then the CSCO was played. Okay, so that was pretty much the week. I had some calls today that didn't trigger, so there wasn't any official calls for me today. So you can see this is not that, uncommon, or this is actually kind of typical of a week, right? In KTR, we're looking for some follow through, didn't want to follow through enough, so we did take a loss on that one. And then DXC was a nice breakout. Cisco was a nice breakdown. DDOG was a breakout. You can see I'm always playing these on the days where they gap, the days where they're getting big volume there. More likely to get a nicer range there. And then, something like the SPB, passed on it, right? So there's some plays that I, didn't work, some plays that I passed on, and then some plays that work. So, just the kind of the full experience this week, just kind of the typical thing, but everything follows the same process. Hopefully, that's what the takeaway is here, right? That I match up first. What is the gap? Am I bullish or bearish on the gap? Am I looking for a bullish or bearish pattern? Okay. I guess there was only one more official call, now that I think about it, that we forgot to include. The Amrin. Amrin was also played on this day. Was a pullback. Okay, let's go over the pullback real quick. So another retracement play, right? So Amrin had the move up initially. Okay, here it is. Had the move up initially, and then once it gave the retracement, so we get a series of lower highs, and then over this bar, I liked that bar a lot because it actually kind of couldn't go on the first one, and then we played it once I got that topping tail, right? So yeah, so again, Amrin, pro gap up, pretty solid gap up. I think it somewhat resembles the SPB. Look at that, kind of basing underneath the 200. Get some consolidation there, sideways. And then on the Amrin, we played long. And then on the SPB, right, could have been played. So, yeah, so I think pretty typical week this week. Hopefully you did well. I thought there were some pretty good opportunities this week. Plenty of that, I didn't even take advantage of. So, hopefully you had a nice week. I think we still probably have a couple weeks of more nice trading, at least until the holidays come, and things may slow down then. But for the time being, I think, should be doing well. Okay. All right. So that's just a little recap for the week. That's going to do it for the week and for the market wrap. Hope you have a nice weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday.